Oliver never questioned his friendship with Thomas. Not when they first met in ninth grade over a shared detention. Not when they grew into an inseparable duo through college. And certainly not when their post-grad lives settled into a comfortable rhythm of late-night takeout and aimless drives. Their bond was effortless, tethered by an unspoken understanding that neither of them had ever needed to articulate. But lately, something was different. It wasn't in the obvious moments, the playful wrestling matches, the stolen fries off each other's plates, or the way Thomas sprawled across Oliver's couch like he owned the place. No, it was in the pauses. The lingering seconds between laughter when Thomas's eyes would settle on him just a fraction too long. It was in the casual touches that no longer felt quite so casual. The way Thomas's knee would brush Oliver's under the table and stay there, unmoving. It was in the heat that simmered beneath the surface, unacknowledged but ever present. Oliver told himself he was imagining it, that whatever was shifting between them was just in his head. But deep down, beneath layers of denial, he knew, he had always known, that this thing between them was never just friendship. It started as just another night, gym, takeout, a half-watched movie, and Thomas making himself at home in Oliver's apartment like he always did. Nothing felt out of the ordinary, and yet, Oliver's pulse had been unsteady from the moment Thomas walked through the door. Maybe it was the way his damp curls clung to his forehead after their workout, or how he peeled off his hoodie and stretched, his toned stomach flashing in the dim light. Maybe it was how his voice had taken on that deep, lazy drawl when he asked, "Mind if I shower?" So casual, so unaware of the fire it sparked in Oliver's chest. Oliver swallowed hard, nodding, forcing himself to act normal. Towels are in the usual spot. Thomas smirked. "Don't miss me too much." As if that wasn't already impossible. The bathroom door clicked shut, and soon after, the sound of running water filled the apartment. Oliver tried to focus on the TV, on the leftovers growing cold beside him, but all he could think about was the steam curling from under the door. He could picture Thomas standing under the spray, water trailing over the sharp angles of his body, muscles flexing as he ran soapy hands over his skin. A flush crept up Oliver's neck. This was dangerous. Then, as if the universe was playing a cruel joke on him, a voice called out, muffled, teasing, "Hey, can you toss me a towel?" Oliver's breath hitched. He hesitated, and then he stood up. Oliver gripped the towel a little too tightly as he approached the bathroom door, his fingers clenching the soft fabric as if it might anchor him. The steam curled outward, thick and humid, wrapping around him like a whisper of something he wasn't ready to name. His pulse pounded against his ribs as he hovered just outside, hesitating for a second too long. "Just push it open," Thomas called from inside, his voice casual, unbothered. "It's not locked." Oliver hesitated again, staring at the handle as if it might bite him. His mind raced with excuses. He could just crack the door open, toss the towel inside, and walk away before his thoughts betrayed him. But Thomas's voice carried a note of expectation, of familiarity. "Come on, man. Not like we haven't seen each other naked before. Locker rooms, remember?" Oliver exhaled sharply. Yeah, except the locker room never felt like this. Swallowing hard, he pushed the door open. Heat swallowed him whole. The scent of Thomas's body wash, clean, sharp, undeniably him, hit Oliver like a punch to the gut. The shower curtain was mostly drawn, but through the fogged-up space, he could see the blurred outline of Thomas's form. Broad shoulders, the strong curve of his back, the rivulets of water running down his skin. "Here," Oliver said, his voice tighter than he intended. He extended the towel, his fingers trembling slightly. Thomas reached for it, his wet hand brushing Oliver's in the process. It was just a second, barely a touch, but Oliver felt it everywhere. His breath hitched. The warmth of Thomas's skin lingered on his fingers even after the towel was gone. And then Thomas hesitated. Just slightly. "You okay?" he asked, quieter now. Oliver froze. There was no way out of this. Oliver stood there, rooted in place, his thoughts colliding like a train wreck he couldn't stop. The heat of the bathroom wrapped around him, thick and oppressive, but it was nothing compared to the weight pressing against his chest. Thomas was still watching him, half hidden behind the steam. Towel now slung around his waist, water droplets tracing the hard lines of his torso. His gaze wasn't teasing this time. It wasn't playful. It was searching, and Oliver felt completely exposed. "You sure you're okay?" Thomas asked again, voice quieter now, something unreadable slipping between the syllables. Oliver swallowed hard. Lying was always easier, but at that moment, The words refused to come. He knew if he met Thomas's eyes, if he saw even the smallest flicker of recognition in them, it would be over. He started but stopped himself. His pulse pounded so loud he was sure Thomas could hear it. Then, before he could stop himself, he did something stupid, something reckless. He looked up, and there it was. A hesitation. A moment stretched so thin between them that Oliver could almost hear it crack. Thomas wasn't just watching him, he was waiting. The air shifted, the space between them becoming something heavy, something alive. Oliver felt Thomas's fingers brush his wrist, barely there, almost testing. A quiet inhale, a silent question. Oliver should have stepped back, should have laughed it off, shoved Thomas's shoulder, and walked away like nothing happened. But he didn't. He stayed. And when Thomas's fingers curled just slightly, his grip tightening in a way that sent something electric rushing through Oliver's veins, he knew. This wasn't in his head. This was real. Oliver should have left. He should have pulled his wrist away, cracked a joke, anything to dissolve the tension hanging between them. But he didn't. He stood still, his breath uneven as Thomas's fingers lingered against his skin, warm and deliberate. For a moment, neither of them moved. The bathroom was silent except for the faint drip of water from Thomas's hair, the air thick with steam, and something else, something neither of them wanted to name yet. Then Thomas did something that sent a shiver straight through Oliver's spine. He stepped closer. Not much, just enough for the air between them to turn electric. Enough that Oliver could feel the warmth of Thomas's body, smell the clean scent of his soap mixing with the heat. His fingers slipped from Oliver's wrist, but instead of pulling away, they skimmed along his forearm, tracing lightly before resting just above his elbow. "You don't have to say anything," Thomas murmured. His voice was softer now, but it wasn't hesitant. It wasn't teasing. It was something else entirely. Oliver's throat went dry. His mind screamed at him to walk away, to laugh it off and pretend none of this was happening. But his body betrayed him. His fingers twitched, aching to reach out, to grab onto something solid before the weight of this moment crushed him. "Thomas," he started, but the words died in his throat when Thomas's other hand lifted, his fingers brushing along Oliver's jaw. His touch was careful, slow, like he was giving Oliver a chance to run. But Oliver didn't move. He couldn't. He felt Thomas's breath ghost against his lips, close enough to taste the hesitation, the want, the question. And then, the space between them vanished. Oliver's back hit the cool tile of the bathroom wall, his breath catching as Thomas pressed in closer. The air between them was stifling, not just from the heat clinging to their skin, but from the charged silence wrapping around them like an invisible thread, pulling tighter with every second that passed. Thomas wasn't rushing, wasn't reckless. His fingers skimmed the curve of Oliver's jaw, tilting his face slightly, his gaze flickering between Oliver's lips and his eyes like he was waiting for a sign, waiting for permission. But Oliver had already given it in the way he hadn't pulled away, in the way his chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven breaths, in the way his fingers curled into the edge of the sink behind him like he needed something, anything, to ground himself. Then Thomas finally closed the space between them. The first brush of his lips was barely a whisper, like he was testing the weight of this moment, tasting the reality of what they had spent years pretending wasn't there. But then Oliver exhaled, something shaky, something unsteady, and that was all it took for Thomas to press in deeper, to slide his hands to Oliver's waist and pull him flush against him. It was intoxicating, the way Thomas kissed, slow but firm, teasing but sure, like he had been thinking about this for as long as Oliver had. And when Oliver finally let go, finally let himself stop thinking, he kissed Thomas back with a hunger that surprised them both. Fingers tangled in damp hair, nails scraped against skin, breaths came in sharp, broken exhales. And in that moment, Oliver knew there was no turning back now. Whatever this was, whatever line they just crossed, neither of them wanted to go back. The morning after should have felt strange, maybe even awkward. But as Oliver stirred, the first thing he registered was warmth. Not just the cocoon of blankets tangled around his legs, but the solid presence beside him. Thomas. His arm was still draped over Oliver's waist, his steady breathing a soft rhythm against the back of his neck. For a moment, Oliver just lay there, eyes fixed on the early light spilling through the blinds, letting himself exist in this quiet, unshaken space where nothing had to be questioned. Then Thomas shifted. His grip instinctively tightened for a second, pulling Oliver slightly closer before he murmured something incoherent against his shoulder. Oliver bit back a smile. "You awake?" he asked softly, voice still rough with sleep. Thomas made a low sound, a cross between a sigh and a hum, before nuzzling deeper into the pillow. "I'm barely." Oliver turned slightly, just enough to catch Thomas's face, his lashes fluttering, his lips slightly parted, the way the morning light softened the usually sharp edges of his jaw. He looked peaceful, comfortable, like he had woken up 100 times before in this bed, next to Oliver. And yet, there was a new weight between them now, thick in the air like an unspoken question. "We should probably talk about this," Oliver said after a pause. Thomas cracked one eye open, studying him for a beat before smirking sleepily. "Yeah," he murmured, shifting onto his side, propping his head up with his hand. "But I really like this part where we don't." Oliver rolled his eyes, but didn't move away. The truth was he liked this part too. And for now, that was enough. The days that followed were a slow, careful dance between familiarity and something new, something electric humming beneath every glance. Every casual touch that lingered just a fraction longer than before. Oliver and Thomas didn't discuss what had happened that night. At least, not in the way Oliver thought they would. There were no grand declarations, no nervous rehashing of the details. Instead, there was a quiet understanding, a shift that neither of them fully acknowledged, but both felt in every moment spent together. Thomas still crashed at Oliver's apartment most nights, but now, the space between them was different. On the couch, he didn't just sprawl beside Oliver. He stretched out with his feet in Oliver's lap, absent-mindedly nudging him whenever he wanted attention. When they cooked together, their movements in the kitchen became effortless, synchronized in a way that felt natural, like they'd been doing it forever. And at night, when the world quieted and they were left alone in the dim glow of the city outside, they didn't sleep apart. The first time Thomas slipped into Oliver's bed again, he didn't make a big deal of it. He didn't tease or ask permission. He just showed up, his warmth settling against Oliver's back, his breath steady and grounding. Oliver hadn't questioned it. He hadn't wanted to, but it was in the stolen moments, the way Thomas's hand would brush against Oliver's at breakfast, the way he'd watch Oliver with something softer in his expression, that Oliver knew this was more than curiosity. It wasn't just a one-time thing. And yet, neither of them had said the words. Maybe they didn't need to. Maybe they were afraid. But the unspoken truth sat between them, waiting. And Oliver wasn't sure how much longer they could ignore it. The tension between Oliver and Thomas had become a living thing, filling the spaces between them with something palpable, something undeniable. It wasn't just in the way Thomas let his fingers skim against Oliver's wrist when he passed him coffee in the morning, or the way Oliver's breath hitched when Thomas leaned too close under the guise of reaching for something on the top shelf. It was in the way their conversations stretched longer into the night, their words quieter, their silences deeper. One evening, after an impromptu movie marathon that neither of them had paid attention to, Thomas turned to Oliver with an unreadable expression, his fingers drumming lightly against his thigh. "Are we going to talk about this?" His voice was casual, but there was something careful beneath the question. Oliver's heart kicked up. He set his drink down, watching the condensation drip down the glass. "Talk about what?" he asked, knowing exactly what. Thomas huffed out a quiet laugh, shaking his head. "You know what?" A beat of silence stretched between them, thick with anticipation. Oliver swallowed. "Do you regret it?" Thomas studied him for a long moment, then reached out, his fingers tracing the back of Oliver's hand before settling there. His grip was firm, sure. "No," he admitted, his voice softer now, more certain. "But I need to know if this is real for you. If this is something more." Oliver exhaled, his pulse hammering. "It is." And just like that, the space between them finally disappeared. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft golden hues over the tangle of sheets and limbs. Oliver blinked awake, his body still humming with the memory of Thomas's hands, the heat of his breath against his skin. He turned slightly, his heart skipping at the sight beside him. Thomas, still asleep, his bare chest rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm. For the first time in what felt like forever, Oliver wasn't second-guessing. There was no hesitation, no fear creeping in to poison the moment. Just warmth. Just this. As if sensing his gaze, Thomas stirred, his lashes fluttering open, revealing sleepy blue eyes. A lazy smile tugged at his lips. "You're staring," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. Oliver chuckled, reaching out to trace slow, idle patterns on Thomas's shoulder. Just making sure you're real. Thomas smirked, shifting closer until their foreheads brushed. I'm real, and I'm not going anywhere. A slow exhale left Oliver's lips. Relief and something deeper settling in his chest. He pressed a kiss to Thomas's shoulder, letting himself sink into the certainty of what they had found. For once, there was no more running. Just the start of something real. Love and self-discovery don't always follow a clear, expected path. In today's world, where societal expectations and personal fears can hold us back, Oliver and Thomas's story is a reminder that embracing one's truth, no matter how uncertain or unexpected, can lead to the most fulfilling experiences. In life, relationships, and identity, honesty is key. If you feel something, acknowledge it. If you love someone, don't let fear silence you. Communication, patience, and self-acceptance are what truly build meaningful connections. Whether it's friendship evolving into love or simply understanding yourself better, never be afraid to explore what truly makes you happy.